So, Ben, if you wouldn't mind, first of all, tell us a little bit about your family, like who your parents were, and even if you remember your grandparents, who they were and where they came from and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, first of all, my grandparents, my late grandmother, she came from Town in Glenmore, and her name was Bridget Murphy, Teresa Murphy, and I am called the same, Bridget Teresa, as well. And also, my grandfather, my late grandfather, he came from County Clare, so he simply met up with her, and eventually they got married, and they had 7 sons. And anyway, and they had a little girl. She was the last, Alice, and she died at the age of 9 months. Yes, she had the whooping cough, and at that time, seemingly, there was no cure for that. So she's buried in Glenmore. Now, my late father and mother, my mother was from Enniscorthy, and she came to work as a young age to the Kellys of Elverstown, Nicholas Kelly. They were very big farmers at that time, and they also had 12 workmen, and she was there at that. And there was a man by the name of Michael Fitzgerald. He was a Kilkenny councillor, and he used to run house dances. And seemingly, he wasn't my father at the time, but he used to go up to these dances. Now, my mother only had 1 day a month off, and that would be on a Thursday. And she had 1 Sunday off once a month. And the train was at Elverstown. She only had to go a couple of yards, and she'd go off up to Dublin. And what I didn't know was she knew all about the big cemetery above in Dublin. So she used to get her teeth done. She had snow white teeth, and she always went over it here to me. But anyway, she went up to this dance anyway this night, and there was a fella that came to work in Kellys of Elverstown. He was only there about 2 or 3 days, and seemingly one of the workmen didn't turn up. And Nicholas Kelly, God rest him, said to her mammy, he said, Nellie, he said, would you ever go out, she said, and milk a cow? Oh, she said, I will. And he said, because you could be there all day. No, he said, no, one of the men didn't. So this fell up and said, sure. He said, Nellie, he said, what about meet me, he said, up at the dance? And she said, oh, no. Oh, I heard, he said, you're doing a bit of line with a fella from Glenmore. And with that, she had the bucket of milk, anyway, from the cow. And what did he do? He pulled the stool from under, and he spilled the whole bucket of milk. So in went Nicholas Kelly, and he went into the cowhouse, and he said, Nellie, what's after happening? She said, that fella there, she said, wanted to meet me at the dance up in Michael Fitzgerald's. And when he found out I had a fella, he pulled the stool from under me. He said, come in now, here you. There's your cards now, he said, and you get out the gate and don't ever come back. She used to go over that to me here now, you know. So that's how my father and my mother met up. Now there was a man down in Edwardstown by the name of Jim Fitzgerald, and he was going with a girl by the name of Molly Murphy, and she was the first cousin to my father. So my father and mother got married in Glenmore, and that time they called the bridesmaid the best girl. They weren't known as bridesmaid, that, you know, the best girl. So anyway, the priest came out to call my father and my mother up to the altar. And what did Molly do? Then she walked up with my father. And the priest up and said to her, listen here now, Molly, he said, I'm not marrying you today, he said. I'm marrying Georgie and Nellie. Oh, but she said, sure, you'll be marrying me next week, won't you? Oh, because he said, I will. She used to go for that here to meet you. Now, they were nice stories, weren't they? And then my grandfather then, he had a big, there were 2 or 3 fields, like, and he used to till. I was actually going over this morning, and he used to till it after work. And eventually he was missing a stalk of spuds. Another time it could be a bit of cabbage. He used to keep the bees for honey. And one night he said to the wife, my grandmother, God rest her, he said, I'll have to report this to the sergeant, he said. He said, things couldn't be getting missed that way, he said, constant. So he spoke to the sergeant anyway. The barrack was only up the road, and he spoke to him, and he said, be gone, George, he said, I look after that for you. I'll keep an eye on that now and the night I'd be up and trolling. So this went on anyway for a good while. And what did he do? He said to the wife, my grandmother, he said, I must go up tonight, he said, I'm after getting a torch. And I must see, he said, who's taken up all the things, he said, and I'm missing them after sewing them and everything else, he said, like that. So he hid above, and I came to 1 o'clock in the morning. And the next thing, here's this fella, and he helping himself. So he just turned on the torch. Who do you think it was? The sergeant. And he was stealing them. And he shone it up. He shone it up in his face. Anyway, and he said to him, he said, you're the robber now, he said, and I'm telling you, he said, to look after the robber, and that you were the robber all along. And he was helping himself, getting free food, he said, and I killed myself, sold him after coming home from work. But, they were good stories.
Absolutely. Betty,
and my mother came from County Wexford, from Drumgool. Yes. Seemingly, she had a little sister, Sarah, and her father had a travelling shop. The same as, I don't know, do you remember, the London Newcastle one time had it. Well, he had the same thing. He used to go around. And seemingly she had a little sister, she was 1 year and 9 months, and her name was Sarah. And at that time, they used to always say a crush on a train was the melee. It wouldn't be a crush. And seemingly there was a right panic on this train, and the mother had the baby in her arms. And whatever happened anyway, she was knocked out, and the baby was thrown out of her arms, and the baby was killed on the track at 1 year and 9 months. She went over that to me here on several times too. And with that, the mother kind of never recovered from that. And the mother died, and her sister took my mother over, and she came then to the age of 13, and she got to know the Kellys of Edwardstown, and that's how my mother came to be there.
So was she the housekeeper then?
She was the housekeeper there. Okay. And she said they were the loveliest couple, the husband and wife. And she used to often go over them. He came home from the fair. He used to go to the fair, Nicholas Kelly, and he used to keep sheep and a ram, And one of the fair days in the Ross, he went off, you see, and when some of the workmen, for a joke, they left in one of the rams after my mother, and she ran up the stairs and the ram after, and then she come down the stairs and he come down the stairs after. So Nicholas Kelly got arrested, seemingly came home before he was due, so he wanted to know what was going on. So she had to watch anyway, and because a man got broken, the whole lot anyway going. So he gave half of them the gate. He taught them to get out, that they shouldn't be doing the like of that. But he said, I'll call some of ye back now. He said, I want ye. They're going to be so much stopped out of your money now, he said, to buy Nelly a new watch. And I have it there.
Still have it?
I have it.
That's good.
It's there. But I left it in then to the jewellers, and there was little jewels in it, and seemingly they were taken out. But I have the watch
And
there.
then, do you know, going way back, your way, your parents or your grandparents' time and all that.
Yeah.
Do you know the way they would have had beliefs, like, you know, like they might have believed in the old things, like.
My father's grandmother lived to be 104. And she was from Mowlerstown. She had lived in Mowlerstown, but she was her maiden name was Bridget from Mullinavat. And that was on the Munster Express, and this happened a generation ago. People that was here read it as well, you know. And I found her memory card, and I don't know where I'm after putting it. And there's a few looking for it, you know. But she did, and she died. She did, and the only thing was, I heard my father often going over. He used to take her down to Fluskis for her pension, but she should just know the feel of it, that she had the right amount of money. But the only thing is, she lost her sight. Yeah. And he said that time they fasted for Lent. And she died of a Good Friday morning. And what she had that Good Friday morning was a cup of black tea and a slice of dry toast. That was the penance they'd done in them days. Yeah.
And come here, we heard that you used to have the house dances.
Oh yes, we had them here.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, the house dances started here then. And Jim B of Glenmore, he was always Jim Welsh. The father was the carpenter just over from Jones's, where I was reared. I was brought there at the age of 9 months, and I was 10 years of age when we left it, you know, to come to live here, you know. And he'd have the house dances here. And Jim B, God rest him, he used to play the accordion, and Tommy Grant behind the spa used to play the fiddle. And then the neighbours be around here come in, and two sisters from number 1, they'd be Catherine's aunts, you know, and they used to be here, and Sissy Desford, and what you call them, the Griffins next door. They'd be Josie, and also they'd be Dick, and they'd be Mixie Pair, and they'd be Marty Pair, and they'd be Station and Dealer, you know, the whole lot, like, from around.
And was it a particular night?
No. Like, you know, someone would come in, even my uncles, and they'd say to their brother here, my father, Georgie, well, will you give us a dance? And he'd say yes, and that would be it, and to start from there. Okay. So it would go on, like, you know, till around 12 o'clock.
And would it happen in this room?
Oh, it was happening. This was the kitchens at that time. Okay. And all we had, you know, was candles and the eye lamps. You know, there was no electricity, you know. And anyway, Deela Power got very interested in the fiddle. And she said to Tommy Grant, would you ever learn me, she said, how to play the fiddle? And he said, I will. So she used to go over to the spa, and she started over there first out to learn it. And the next thing, they became an item. They went out together. And the next thing, they got married. And there's their daughter, Catherine. So they had...
Love stories begin.
I'm telling you, now. And I had an uncle, Kieran, and Lydia Desford of the castle below in Kilmurray. He was found in a ditch wood, or some of the lads were down to look for him, and they found him below in a ditch. And there were 3 more from New Ross, and the 4 of them went to Birmingham the morning after, and Kieran Jones never said it. He'd be my uncle, like, you know, my maiden name was Jones. There were 7 of them, as I said to you, you know, and he never told them that they were that he was going to Birmingham. So Lily came up to know where was he. I told her that as far as I know he was going to Birmingham, and off she goes looking for him, and he was after meeting another woman from Limerick, and he married her. Nola Donovan. So it was nothing but romance.
When the house dances, was it mostly set dancing, or what was it? What kind of
Oh,
dancing?
the waltzing and everything, the whole lot.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Oh, they were all good dancers. My mother was a lovely step dancer now, and a singer, and I was taken after her for the dancing. And, and then the pub started then, and used to hold me up with the two legs. One to catch me under the shoulders, another fella catch me with the two legs, and I'd be up on the stage in a minute. Have photographs somewhere way up. But it was a house of fun.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then come to the winter then, you see, there where that door is, there was a window there, and the table was across there, and they'd be playing cards here when the winter would come, and they start at 7 and would finish at 10. And when to come to Christmas then before it, they'd have a card drive here, and to be a pair of chickens. And two of them on us had an awful row over the chickens, over a treat. The late Paddy Cashin, and you Dick Murphy, didn't you, Catherine? He was the postman, and the two of them had a row, and one was putting the pair of chickens off another, all over a treat. But it was a great house of fun.
Was it 30s or was it 40s?
Oh, 30s, yeah,
30s,
30s, yeah. 6 of them.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they might have an audience.
Yeah.
They might have 2 more, but they didn't play the 8, used to play the 6.
Yeah.
And then we all had to stay quiet when that was going on. And then Mixie Powder come along then, Catherine's uncle, and he'd have 5 or 6 pound of sausages coming. And there were ranges in the house at the time, and they'd all be looking for sausages, and she only had 1 frying pan. So she said to Mixie one night, if you're going to bring all them sausages, she said, bring me home a new frying pan. So about 2 nights after, he sailed in with a new frying pan to her. So she had 2 frying pans going. And there were ranges. There were ranges in the house. but it was a range was in it, And this we are looking for sausages. And they'd be playing the cards and the sausages going.
With the sausages from Clover Meats or wherever?
Oh, yeah, he worked in Clover Meats. Yeah. And he'd come in and she'd ask him where he was going. And he'd say, now, Nellie, you can fry them now. You see, and she never liked the name Nellie. And when she'd be signing anything, she always called herself Ellen. No way would she put Nellie in it. Only Ellen.
Yeah.
But it was a great house of fun.
Yeah.
And
come here, and then the platform dances.
The platform started then, and it started up in Patrick. There's a committee there, the late Dick McBride was one of them, and Jimmy Marr of the village, and Paddy Cashin of the village, and Tom Purcell of Gortines, and Paddy Cameron of Clune at that time. And it was 2 pennies, and there were 6 of myself, and the 6 of them had come there. The 2 grants from Ferrybank, they were 2 sisters. And then there were Maid Juden, God rest her. She was an only daughter like myself, and she was my bridesmaid when I got married in 1954. So I met my future husband over at the dance board. He danced with me all night.
Ooh.
Yes.
Is that how you met him?
Well, that's how I met him. Come down the Creamery Hill after the dance, and he was on a bike. He asked me, did I want to lift home? And I told him my legs carried me over and they could carry me home again. I'll see you Sunday night, he said. I said, you will in your eye, and I shouted after him. And the next thing he turned up. So I was going to him for 5 years. And do you know where he proposed to me? After 3 years, under the clock on the quay.
Oh.
And there was a photographer there. His Power was his name, but there was a nickname on him by the name of Sticky Back Power. And coming up from the Coliseum, he stopped the 2 of us. And we had to get off our bikes. And I had I think it's a pair of shoes I had on it, on the handlebars. And he stopped us, and he took our photograph under the clock. Now, at this side of the clock, there was a Morris Minor. And under the clock, there was a garden seat and 2 elderly men sitting on it. And I still have that. And I wasn't smoking or anything, and he used to smoke. And he just said to Jimmy Barry, God rest him at that time, he said, would you ever give your girlfriend, he said, a cigarette? And I held the cigarette in my hand, and he took the photograph. And the following Saturday week, he met us, and he gave us the photographs. And when I came home, when I showed them to my mother, oh my God, she said, I never thought you were smoking. Oh, sure, Mama said, it was only a dry cigarette, she said. He gave it to me to put it in my hand. That's what the photographer wanted. And I have a photograph of that.
And come here, did he thought that the cigarette made you look cool or something? Or
He wanted me to be the same as what he had.
Oh, okay.
You see?
Yeah.
And where did he go? Off down to Zichler's, and he bought me a 5-stone engagement ring.
Oh.
Yeah. So 2 years after we got married.
And was the Coliseum, was that the picture house?
The Coliseum, yeah, Miss Kerr was the proprietor, and I never had to pay. If he didn't come in, I was able to walk in, and when he come in later on from County Waterford, he'd pay. And she'd leave me in, like, when she'd see me coming. Your boyfriend will pay for this, she'd say. And I'd say, right, miss, and I'd walk in, you know. And that's now if he wasn't in on time, you know.
And did you go, was the Savoy open at that stage?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
And Bridget Larcy was in the Savoy at that time, so she used to do the tickets there, you know. So the platform then started. Then the next thing, then the parish ran out of funds.
Just tell us about the platform first.
The platform.
What was it like? Just physically?
Dan O'Brien, God rest him, used to play the accordion. And then his younger brother Michael used to play the drums. And then they had another man there, he used to play the accordion by the name of Dixie Quigley. And to be over at 10 o'clock, the national anthem would be always played.
And would they have a platform?
Oh yes, a beautiful platform and seats around it. And they were covered in if any rain or anything came, you know. And then it shifted then from Patrick down by the creamery. Oh. Yes. There you turn to your left going down, and that was on your right in a kind of a little bog. But it was a lovely sheltered place at that time. You know, it was absolutely lovely.
And then you were saying they ran out of money. What was that?
The priest then, they kind of ran out of funds here, you know, and there was things going to be done. There was a tech build actually there at the parochial house as you go up the avenue there. My father, God rest him, helped down there too. And the next thing, the platform arrived below on the parochial grounds. And the first thing they had on the Sunday was a donkey derby. And the children, and they all in their different colours, and all the donkeys and they running. Sure, it used to be packed. Then they started then to have hurling matches in it. One was Slieverue and Ballygunner. And I remember Jimmy here, my husband at the time, and he had a flag, and he'd have to put it up, one flag for a goal, another flag for a bind. And Simley Ballygunner beat Slieverue. And the next thing, Dr. Hughes came after him and he said, you're backing up your county, Jimmy. He said, no, Father. He said, it was a goal. That's why I put up the green flag. So anyway, that night there was a dance, used to hold a dance then in the hall after that. And the next thing he went up on the stage and he said, I had to give an apology to Jimmy Bally, he said. It was a goal, he said. He was right when I was wrong, he said, and he was right. So then they used to have, in it, they all had stalls. And my father was on one stall, God rest him. And so it was like a man. And you had balls, and his mouth, like, it'd be open a bit. And if you're able to get a ball in his mouth, you got a prize. But you could be there for 10 years and you wouldn't get a ball in his mouth. Just be half closed. And then some Sunday nights he'd be on the door. And more Sunday nights he'd be on the cloakroom. And Mrs. Cummins, God rest her, would be giving out the minerals. And then it might be Mick Griffin, the late Mick Griffin would be on the door. But anyway, that was, the go was there then. And then the band would come on the stage then, and that was, I can't think of her name now, Sadie Byrne. And she'd come on the stage, and the next thing she goes to the microphone and she'd say, now, take your partners now for an old-time struggle. And that would mean an old-time waltz. And that would start off. Yes. So that was, then we'd all be out on the floor then. So that was that was our life. It was we had a terrific time.
Yeah.
You know?
And did you have family here?
Pardon?
Did you have a family?
No,
Oh.
I lost a baby. Jimmy was killed then.
Oh, okay.
My first husband was killed at the age of 32.
Oh,
Yeah, drunken driver. Yeah, out in Ballytruckle Green. He was being shifted from one job to another. And I worked in the post office, and there was a shop, Murphy's shop, coming up, and I always went in. Mammy'd have me dinner ready here, and the post office were closed from, from 1 o'clock and wouldn't open again till 2:30. And I always got the cigarettes, and the name of the cigarettes at that time were Albany. And I always got them, and the table was on the middle of the floor there at that time. And I started to say, well, you don't have to stop going back. So that's one of the evens, the 11th of June, he'll be 54 years dead next Sunday. Yeah, please God, yeah. And he was a lovely dancer, and Pope John Paul the 23rd was after passing away, and he was after buying a picture of him at the Legion at the Stowell. And anyway, there was 2 masses for the Pope. One was on the Monday night, and the other was on the Tuesday night. So he was at mass on the Monday night because he went up in the gallery, and I was down at the women's side, and he just done that to me, across, to let me know he was after coming home. And we were waiting at the gate for him, my late father, and myself was waiting for him to come home, and the table was late for his tea at the time. And the next thing, a telegram boy came along and handed me a telegram, and I had him in the pools with Mrs. Griffin, the MH pools, the Martyr Hospital. And I said, he must be after Winsome. When I opened it, it just said, your husband has been killed. That was the way the news was broken to me at the gate. Yeah, he was only 32.
And remember you said you were at the Mass?
I was, yeah.
What church was that?
Slieverue.
And you said the women were on one side, the men on the other?
Yeah. The men was up on the men's gallery. And then there was the women's gallery at this side, and then the choir gallery down at the other end. But you see, I was in the pews down under the gallery, and he went up at the men's gallery, at the other side. And when he went up, he just gave a wave across me to let me know that he was after coming home, on the Monday night, and he was killed on the Tuesday night.
And at that time, would people be waked in their houses? Would that be the tradition?
Oh, they would.
Okay.
Yeah, they would. Mammy now was wakened here, and my father, God rest him. But
and would it go on for a couple of days, or would it be?
Yeah, around the 3 days, the whole lot, So just you'd have to, you just have to get on with life, and. But then the killing part of it all was the Saturday before he was killed. I was late coming up from the post office, and there was some film on inside in the Call. It used to call it, the Coliseum. And the postmistress, the bus was late coming home, and she was late, and that meant I was late coming up here. And he was down the room. He had a head of lovely wavy hair, and he was combing his hair, and my mother said to me, "You're going to have your dinner?" And I said, "No, there's a film he wants to see." I said, "Well, I'll just get myself ready and we'll go." So I went down the room, and he was combing his hair, and the very word I said to him, "You're always looking at yourself," I said, "in the mirror." "Well, if anything ever happens," he said to me, you get married again and be happy." Oh, I said, what's the thing I said you're talking about? Went off into the Coliseum and saw the film, and we were coming back up, and he said to me, put out your left hand. And I said, my left hand, I said, aren't we going up the quay? No, he said, we're going out to Ballygunner graveyard. I said, what are we going out there for? Ah, he said, we'll have a look around. I said, OK. So sure, I had no alternative. I was up behind him. So, you know, I couldn't get down off the scooter. So as he goes to Ballygunner anyway, and the next thing we were walking up by this grave, and he stood and he said, this where my grandmother is buried now, he said. And he said, sure, he said, I'll be going with her. And because he was killed on the Tuesday. So he showed me a big scark up on a ditch. So we went to come home anyway, and coming home with Charlie Orphans, the scooter ran out of petrol. And he had to push it all the way into Kelly's garage, and I walking, you know. We got there. Sure, my mother and father seemed he was out on the road. It was all yours and me home. We should have been home at 5:30. We weren't home till 8:30. And Mrs. Welch over, Kissy and Brendan's father. The father was sitting out on the window. He used to always do that. It was summer's even. And he went in, he said to Kissy, there's something wrong. He said, Georgie and Mrs. Jones is out on the road. And she came over to him. And she said to me mother, she said, there's nothing wrong, Mrs. Jones. And she said, the two of them are not back yet. She said, I'm just worried about them. So after some time anyway, Kissy heard the noise of the scooter, you know. And the next thing, when we got off at the gate, she said to me, where in the name of God were you? She says to me. I said, Mama said, we were out in Ballygunner graveyard. Ah, she said, the second biggest graveyard in Ireland, she said. Slieverue is the biggest, she said to me. I said, and how do you know about Slieverue? Sure, I used to visit it, she said, when I used to go up in the train from Melrosstown. That was done so I got back. So, you know, she was all right then when she knew, you know. So he was killed on the Tuesday. So I went down to late Father Dwyer. He was the parish priest at that time. And when he answered the door, he said, are you in trouble, Bid? And I said, Father, there's something I want to discuss with you, what Jimmy Berry had to say to me on Saturday. And he said, sure, you haven't a row? I said, no. And you're the happiest couple, he said, I ever see. He said, you know, he said, he never travels anywhere without you. I said, sure, I know. He said, come in now, he said, and Woody is getting me dinner. She was the housekeeper at the time. And I told him, well, he said, I'm going to tell you one thing now, he said. He had a premonition on Saturday. And he said, I'll tell you now, he said, I'll soon be having me lunch. But he said, would you ever send down Georgie to me? That was my father, you know. And he said, tell him to come down to me about 2:00. So my father, God rest him, went down to him at 2:00. And whatever went on, my mother spoke about it from the day that it happened until the day she died. He never told us what the priest said. And it gave her more trouble. I'll never forget it. I used to bring her for a walk. She got a slight stroke. And I used to bring her every day for a walk up the mountain road and over by the creamery. And she used to always say, your father never told us what father, to know what the priest had to say, you know. And I used to say to her, Mum, forget about it, you know, it is in the past. I know, but why didn't he? And I used to say, sure, we can never answer that question now.
Never know.
You know, you would never know. But it did bother her.
Of course.
You know.
And you're also involved with the
Legion of Mary. I was, yeah. I was in the Legion of Mary. And that time, the women were always called sisters. You know, when the priest would call you, he'd say, my name that time was Barry. And he'd say, Sister Barry, Sister Cummins, Sister Welsh Lizzie. But the Legion of Mary was in it at that time. and started down in the hall down here at the time, and was there for a few years, and then it moved up then to the National School up the mountain road there, and Dr. Hughes was our parish priest at that time, and you done visitation as well. That meant you went to certain, to houses in the parish, and you might say maybe go say to Giles's Quay maybe 1 week, and Lizzie and myself, God rest her, we used to go every Tuesday night. To start in April, and we'd finish up in September, when the nights would be getting that bit dark again, and you went into the houses then, and you had a chat with them, and if there were anyone sick, you'd go in the day, if they wanted you, and if they wanted anything done, you done it for them, and and then you'd say the rosary. And when your meeting would be Tuesday night, I'd say have the statue of Our Lady here, and I'd bring it up, and the altar would be set above with the flowers and the blessed candles and Our Lady, and you'd be called then to give a report of the time you went, where you went, and what went on. But outside of that, you could never carry anything out of the house after that. What was said in the house. Yeah, and my father had that rule here too, and I still have it. And he said here, I always says to anyone that comes in, I don't want to hear anything after you again. But his parents had that in Glenmore as well.
It's a good rule.
It is a good rule because you never get into trouble.
But Biddy, when you were going around to people's houses that time, you must have met a lot of old characters, did you?
We did. And one thing, coming home the ditches now, when we be coming home, the wild woodbine used to be out, and often you see the lilac, there'd be a tree someplace, and they'd always say to you, well, if you're going to pick those going home, don't ever bring them into the house, they're unlucky, And Lizzie and myself would get off our bikes and we'd pick them, but we always push them outside the house, But we would always warn never to push them in the house, leave them in the house, Okay. So we had a great time.
And come here, was there any other old superstitions like that? Do you remember any old superstitions, or fish oaks, or what you call them?
Oh, they were, there was a lot of little things like, going on, for shows. They tell you, about the wild woodbine, first of all, you'd hear that. And then they tell you then you should never bring a bird into the house. That was unlucky to bring a bird. And then if you saw the magpies, they tell you, one for sorrow and two for joy. So you know that, don't you? Yeah. And that would be riddled off to you.
Yeah. Would people have favourite saints that they pray to?
Yeah, I have a favourite saint, and I still have her. And that's Our Lady of Lourdes. I even have her on the keyring. And I never known her to fail me yet. Okay. And then we had, in the Legion of Mary then, we had the 3 papers. One was the Irish Catholic, the Standard, and the Universe. Now, those 3 papers used to come on the train from Dublin to the station house in Waterford, and the late Lizzie would collect them. And my husband here at that time would go up on a Saturday evening, and he'd bring them down, and I'd have to write down all the names. And the Legion Hut, we used to call it, was where the orchard is now, and that was in front of the chapel gate. And you go down, he'd bring down the papers and open it up, and he'd put them along the counter. And that Sunday morning then, Mrs. Cummins, God rest her, and myself, the both of us would be down to sell. And we knew everybody come for the different papers, but the crowds was unbelievable at that time. You know, there were more people going to Mass. And, you know, the crowds were great.
Yeah.
And you'd hardly have a paper left.
And can you remember any of the old characters? Like, you know, when you were young, do you remember any of the old characters that were around at the time? You know, people that might be good at sports or telling yarns or whatever.
Yes. Oh, they were, yes, yeah. Sure, my father was great at it. We'd hear things about the girls coming around and some of the neighbours, you know, they'd be very interested in what kind of a fella they'd meet and would he have black hair or fair hair and what kind of a job we'd have. And anyway, they'd be telling us they were after meeting such a fella the night before and we'd have it off. And they'd be in the night after. Georgie, yes, what do you want now? Would you ever cut the cards? Right, I will. You might be, what kind of a fella do you think I'd be able to get? Will he have black hair? Will he have fair hair? And we'd be after telling him the whole story, what they were after telling us. And he'd read it all back to him. So he wasn't able to read the cards. Only tell him what they wanted to hear. Yeah. And I don't want to name any women either.
and you were involved in the ICA as well?
I was in the ICA, and the founder of the ICA was Mrs. McDermott. They were Quakers, and they lived over in Rapatrick, and the ICA was started, and that was up in the old schoolhouse above, and there was a good few people there in that as well. And anyway, to make the long story short, they were Miss Barton, below of Giles Quay. They were Presbyterians, but they were great as well. And then there were Mrs. Sands came to Gortines, and she was in it. They weren't, you know, Presbyterians as well, so all them. And the next thing, I became secretary in it. I used to have to do the minutes, and that went on. And they started then to raise funds. They wanted funds, you know. So there was a prize went up then in it, the first prize they ever had, and a woman from down from Giles Quay, Mrs. Green was her name, and she used to do a bit of crochet, and the first prize was a set for a dressing table, the two small ones and the centrepiece, you know, and it was a kind of a mustard colour, and her daughter Sissy Green, she brought it up for the raffle, and I won it, and I still have it.
Good.
Now, yes, and there's some time, a few years ago, we had a sale on. There was a bringing boys tale down in the hall, and the granddaughter was down there, and somebody had crochet, so she was talking about it, and she said it isn't like Long Road, like my grandmother. And I said, well, I have a set belonged to you. I still have it. I have a set, I said, belonged to your grandmother. I said, I won it. Oh, my God, she said. She said, you wouldn't see that now, she said to me, you know. And she said, could I see it? Well, I said, anytime you're passing, if I'm there, I said, I'll always open the door. So I said, you can come in to see it. And she couldn't believe it. You know, I still have it.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yes, and it was the first thing that was ever, you know, the first, the raffle, you know.
And was it unusual for, like you said, like the ICA was a lot of Presbyterians and Protestant and a Quaker woman. Was it unusual then for a local woman to be involved? Like yourself?
No. Mrs. Cummins, there's Mrs. Cummins in it, God rest her. There were Mrs. Cowan in it. There was Mrs. Lundergan in it, you know. There was Sissy Green herself in it, the daughter, you know.
So it's a good mix of people.
Yes. And we all got together, you know. And it was we had a great bit of fun there too, you know.
Would you go on any trips around that, or did you?
No, there used to be any trips at that time.
Okay.
They'd have the meeting all right, and then other ISDA meetings would come then. They'd pay a visit.
Okay.
Yes, from other parishes.
And I meant to ask you, did you ever get to Lourdes?
No,
Okay.
no.
Right. Because you said that was your favourite.
She's my favourite saint, but that time now, when we used to be going out together, like to the dances and that, what we used to always do too for Saturday, we'd go into Woolworths for the earrings and the powder, all the different things, and we'd always come up to the bridge, and the most sad part of it all was that you see the boats and all the people leaving the country and all the relations, and they waving goodbye to them, and all the tears, they shedding the tears. So I remember that well now,
Right. And come here, you mentioned earlier on, you were talking about the blessing of the eggs and stuff like that.
Oh yes, yeah.
So
That was always
Easter Saturday.
Easter Saturday night. You brought up whatever you wanted to get blessed, and you left them along at the seat, just before you kneel down, and the priest would come down and bless them, always. So that was done every Easter, but them days are gone now again, And it was lovely though, the things and then the same way with the Legion of Mary, you went up once a year, and the statue of Our Lady be there, and you just put your hands on her that you were dedicated to her, and it was a lovely ceremony as well. It was absolutely lovely.
And you were telling a story earlier on about the fishman selling the fish.
Oh yeah, I did. The late Paddy Donovan, God rest him, was telling Catherine there about it. I never forgot that either. And there was a neighbour of ours used to come every week of a Friday evening, and of course that time you never broke the fast. You always kept the fish, And she was mad looking for herons, and this Friday Paddy came in, and I said to Paddy, I said, "Have you any such thing, Paddy?" I said, "It's herons." And he said, "Bid," he said, "I have." I said, "You might give me a half dozen." So when he came in, I said to him, "God," I said, you're wearing glasses now, Paddy." "Ah," he said, "I am," he said. So I said, "Would you ever bring me in the fish?" So he went off out and he came in with a plate of fish to me, to the door. And I said, "What do I owe you, Paddy?" He said, 2 shillings. And I looked at him again. "Me God, Paddy," I said, "that's strange," I said. "You have no glass," I said, in the rims." "Oh, me God, Biddy," he said, "sure, if I had that," he said, "I wouldn't be able to see it all." And here he was with the 2 rims and no glass. And I never left me head. When I didn't have the plate for all, I was lucky. Fish and all.
And you mentioned also about the dispensary.
I did. Lizzie gave the plot of ground for the dispensary for the people of the parish. Okay. So it is closed now.
The doctor.
Yeah, closed down.
And sorry, I wanted to ask you too about the old days when people used to have all these things about the fairies and all.
Oh, that's right.
Do you remember any of those old stories?
Yeah. So when you'd hear about them anyway, and the banshee. Yeah, you'd hear about that. Whether it was real or not, I don't know. Maybe they were only seeing things. I don't know. I see hear that going on too.
And would you be scared when you were small,
Me? No.
Okay.
No. I sure, we had a good time. We went, there were 4 or 5 dance sports started. There was one down in Rossberrican. Yeah, and I needn't tell you what I used to do down there. Yeah, one fella had a motorbike and stayed the wind of the wheels so he wouldn't catch up to us. there were 6 of us going together, 7 all together. Myself used to be 7. The other 6 would meet at my gate. And, then there was another one opened over in in Glenmore, And then there was another one up in one of that Buckstown here. I got coming down there with those lights. Well, yeah.
By the guards? Or?
Oh yeah, he shone a light up in me face and I had to get off of the bike and he said to me, "Where's your light?" he said to me. I said, "It's next to me liver." So I said, "Oh," says he, "that's the right place to have to keep your hand on it." And about 3 or 4 years after, he came to the door. He wanted to know, had I a dog? And I said, "I had." He said, "Licensed?" I said, "He is." "Can you show me the licence?" I said, "I can." And there was a glass press here, that side. So I got him. "I didn't think you were married," she said. "Well," I said, "there's a ring on my finger anyway." Oh, he said, "I wouldn't have come to Waterford to know that." And off he went. So, well, I didn't get kids off the bike. I'm lucky coming down the hill. Yeah.
And where would you mostly go? Like, would you go into Waterford for dances?
Oh, yeah, we used to go to the ballroom.
To the Olympia? Right?
Yeah, the Olympia, yeah. Okay. And then there were, what you call them, started in it then. Bingo. You play with the tops of bottles.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you remember that?
The bottle tops, yeah.
Yeah. And my husband, Jimmy Barry, God rest him, he won a doll in it. And there she's there, look at her.
Oh, yeah.
She'll be 54 years now, please God. What you call it? Yeah. There she is, and she's lovely.
She's lovely.
And I'm always telling anyone, I'd be telling my cousin that there's nothing to happen to her. Yeah, I don't want to part with her.
Absolutely.
Take her out there, Catherine, you see her.
What we'll do, Biddy, when we're finished, we'll get a few pictures of you, get shots of you with some of those things you spoke about. Because, like you mentioned, the photograph on the quay.
Yes.
We'd love you to get a photograph of that as well.
Oh, sure, I'd have to go look for it.
I know we'll come back to you, sure, if you can find it.
Yeah.
And generally, just about growing up in this area, I mean, have you any other, did you like living here? Was it a nice place to live?
Oh, it was. I mean, we had great fun here. Yeah. You know, I mean, it was always a house of fun. Yeah. You know, and like there was only myself in it. I had no brothers or sisters, like, you know. But like it was always a great house of fun. And then I had two great friends. I met them when I came here, the late me and Kate Durnley. And they were lifelong friends, actually, until they passed away, both of them. And they come in, and the table, as I said to you, was on the floor at that time. And they come in, and no matter what dinner would be going, they'd get their dinner here. And then May went off then. She was what's called a right droll. And she went off and she got a Honda. But the killing part with all is, she never rode a Honda. She only always rolled it. She used to walk.
Bring it for a walk.
She used to roll it. But I mean, she never rode it. And I remember one evening I could have killed her. Out in the kitchen, and I remember us after taking out a lovely piece of pork liver as to lovers, and the next thing I left it up on the top of the fridge to what you call it, to defrost, and she went down my room. She sat on the bed and she said, "I want to tell you something, come down the room." And so when I came up, the cat had a dish and I could have choked her. I was looking forward to it. But this was the sport that we had, you know. But she was a lifelong friend. And she, God bless the mark, she got cancer then. And we went off in to see her. And when she died, I had no way of going to her burial. And Mick Connors, God rest him, a farmer down the Milepost Hill, God, didn't he come to the door? And he said to the two of us, he said, "Are you going to May's burial?" And he said, "You were lifelong friends," he said. And I said, "Sure," I said, "I've no way of going," I said, over to her burial. She's buried in Big Wood, you see. Well, he said, "You're coming now," he said. "I have the car outside," he said, "that's what I'm here for." So he brought the two of us to her funeral. You know, and, you know, it was lovely. that I was able to get there.
Yeah.
Because she was a lifelong friend and she was so droll. And there was a certain butcher in town, I'm not going to name him, and she used to be mad about this butcher. She said, yeah, and he used to be calling her to the Waterford, and she used to believe him. And she'd come back out and she'd come in here and she'd have the whole story for me. You know, he was only joking, you know. But she was droll, but she was lovely. Yeah, she was a lovely person.
What did those two women do? What did they work at?
They had a farm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but they never, you know, they had a farm. But they used to always deal in Murphy's shop. And they'd come in here, and the other sister would come the day after Kate, and she'd get her dinner here then the next day. So that's the way. Yeah. But, you know, and then they had the fairy fort on the land as well, you know, and she didn't get burned, but she lit a fire and fell asleep. Yeah, and it burnt all around the place, but it never touched her, me. And the mother was after warning her not to light a fire. And she went up to have a picnic with herself. Yeah, and the fairy fort.
And she fell asleep there?
She fell asleep, fell sound asleep, and when she woke, all the place was all burnt all around her, but it never went near her. Yeah.
And did you work? You said you worked in the post office, was it?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I done housework in it. Oh, yeah. They gave all them years in it. Okay. Yeah. The only thing I couldn't do was milk a cow. But my mother used to, yeah, she was an asthmatic hairdresser, but lovely. I got a great recommendation out of it. I gave years in it.
And did you ever play an instrument yourself?
No.
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 But you were a good step dancer?
I was good, yeah, Mammy was a lovely step dancer. She was a lovely singer, and so was my grandmother. She used to sing Danny Bye. My grandmother was a lovely singer.
Did you ever sing yourself?
Did. I used to sing in the pubs.
All right.
I have a photograph of one of them.
You wouldn't give us an old blast, would you?
Because I won't. I'm not able to talk now, I'm hoarse.
You sure you wouldn't just do a little verse even?
No, because I won't.
No?
No, I'd want to be drunk. And I never drank.
And speaking of the pubs, because
oh yeah, the
I
pub.
never asked you about the pubs. Could you tell us about, there was two pub here and there was also a pub in my post, wasn't there?
Yeah, but the Rue Glen opened then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what you call Lions below.
Lions, yeah.
Yeah. And
so where would you go?
I used to go to Lions myself, and yeah.
And was that for music or was it for crack?
Well, I didn't drink now, but I remarried then after Jimmy Barry, after going on 5 years. Another fella, I met another Jimmy, and I didn't see him either. He was going up in the car. You know Michael Nolan, didn't you? Yeah. And what I didn't know, his sister was married to Michael Nolan. He was from Tipperary, Jimmy Grace. And I was coming down. That time we had to go to Creamy for the water. We'd have to bring 2 buckets of water. A girl, a friend of mine, and she said to me, "There's a fella looking at you." And I said, "Looking at me?" I said, "I didn't even see him. Let him look away to hell, wherever he is." And with that, she looked back, and just come down the hill again. And she looked back, and she the car is after slowing down. He's looking back. "Oh, let him look away." And I said, "Come on." And she said, "He's going to be your future husband." Well, I said, "If he is," I said, "you can be my bridesmaid." And that's exactly how it happened. The next thing, there was letters coming every day when I came up from the post office for my dinner. "There's a letter here for you from Tipperary. Who's writing to you?" "Ma'am, I don't know." "You should know." "Well, I don't know." This was the sermon every day when I came up. It went on for 5 or 6 weeks. No way would I answer the letters. So eventually, it was Saturday, my father said, on the Friday actually, and he said, "Whoever is writing to you," he said, "can't you go and meet him, whoever he is?" And he said, "These letters will stop." And I opened the letter. I said, "Here, read it. He wants me to meet him in Mackie's Cafe. He'll be down." Saturday. Well, get yourself ready, he said, and go in. Have the decency to do it. Right, I said. I got myself ready, and in I goes. Down, the long ways down Mackie's Cafe. When I went down, this fellow was sitting below in a pint in front of him, and I went off down. Ah, he said, oh my God, aren't you lovely? He said, you're very attractive looking. Well, I said, well, that's what I came in for. I said, I'm going out again. And he said, sit down, he said. Right, so I sat down. So he told me all about himself. Oh, he said, I was in the Merchant Navy. He said, I suppose it said a woman in every port. Yeah. He said, no. And he said, I know you're buried your husband and all like that. But he was a lovely man, though. His photograph is there. He was a bit older than me, but he was a lovely man. And he told me his whole life story then. And he said, I'm from Tipperary, he said, and that's my sister's married down then to the parish. And I was married within 9 months.
And did he live here then?
He did, yeah.
Okay.
He did. He gave me, yeah. So he had a plan then. He used to stay in Breens then every weekend. And there was an idle room down there. And my father said to him, he said, what's the use in paying out a couple of hundred for Friday, Saturday and Sunday night? He said, there's an idle room there. So he stayed there then, the weekends. And he said one weekend then, he said, when I'm down next weekend, he said, we must go as far as New Ross. So went to New Ross anyway. The bus used to stop there, went up to New Ross. And as we were going up by, by the jewellers, and the next thing, lo and behold you, here he was beside the jewellers, and God almighty, he was down, I thought he fainted. And when I looked at him, I said to myself, Jesus, may and Joseph, don't tell me he's after fainting. And what was it? Next thing I had an audience, and they cried to me, listen here, woman, he's proposing to you, he's asking you to marry him. Yeah, and then I said no first. And then I think he'd faint. I know he faint altogether or not. But anyway, I said yes, and in he goes into the jeweller, and he made me go with him a 3-stone engagement ring. I still haven't.
Why did you say no first? You just black
I don't know, black out. Yeah. And then I realised was he after fainting altogether. And here they were, and they tell me that it was what they call it, that was proposing to me he was. So I was married within 9 months. Yeah, I met him coming down. That was two Jimmys. And to know who came into me one time, to know who it was, Kathleen Joe. Yeah, to know. She said it was a lovely story. But that's the way it ended up.
And you said you used to drink in the Lions.
Yeah, we used to go down to Lions.
Was there music there? Or would
There were, yeah. There was the music there, yeah. And the Roaches, they were from Fellybank. And actually I met one of them not so long ago down the chemist. And I didn't know him. And he said, do you remember? He said, I was to haul you up on the stage to sing. Huh. I said, I know who I have now. Oh. Yeah. He was one of the Roaches. Did you know them? Yeah, they had a band. Yeah. Oh, he's married, sure, But we had a great time. Yeah, a lovely time now.
And Billy, would you, I mean, we're just going to finish now, but would you not sing a little verse for us?
Yeah, I won't, I'm hoarse.
Go on, just sing a little verse.
No.
Go on.
No.
For the crack.
I won't.
Go on.
No way.
Why?
I want to be drunk.
Stop.
And I never liked
it. You don't have to. Just a little verse.
You must be joking.
Oh, Lord. Well, Billy, thanks very much for doing this.
Not at all. No, sure, you're welcome.
That was great.
Yeah,